This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you in part by TechLINKS, the interconnection company, owners and operators of 56 Marietta, the most network-rich co-location facility in the Southeast. Tag TV and Tag Radio. Technology now has a voice of innovation and information. Get it on www.tagtvonline.com. Better known as the Point Man, few realize he was the first publisher-editor of a technology-related publication in the region. Mike Adkinson, visionary leader, loyal friend to hundreds of top technology executives, honored professional, awarded by former Governor Roy Barnes with the Georgia Public Service Recognition for Technology. A career of entrepreneur and leadership consultant to various corporations, including Ford Motor Company, AT&T, American Medical, Kaiser Chemical, and the New York Stock Exchange. Oh, yes, and then there was the 20 years in the United States Army, where he served as a paratrooper, ranger, and highly decorated gunship pilot. His record of 2,401 missions have been cited as the most combat missions flown by an American aviator of any branch of service in any war. Greetings, everyone. It's August 2009, and this is a very special edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. In this issue of Tech Talk, Tino speaks with the point man himself, Mike Adkinson, creator, founder, publisher, and driving vision behind TechLINKS. Since 1998, the sole voice bringing attention to the local technology industry. How did it all begin, and what are his plans and vision for the future of not only TechLINKS, but the technology marketplace of tomorrow? It's a very special, unique insight into the man that has done so much for an entire industry's image and growth, as Tino speaks with the one and only Mike Adkinson.
Mike, thanks for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Tino. I appreciate it.
Well, you have an illustrious career, and certainly I think I speak for everybody in giving thanks to the 20 years you put into the military. We're not going to talk about that today, but somewhere down the road I'd like to have you do a tag event where we could just focus on that.
That'd be a pleasure.
Today I'd like to focus on your role with technology in the media and what you've done to contribute to the community here. So I think a good place to start is just how did you get started in the media? It's a far cry, I would think, from the military.
Yeah, it is. It's a far cry, and it wasn't like I set out to get started in the media, but after my years in the Army and participating as a planning and leadership consultant with several big organizations, I sat in a lot of planning conferences, and this is back in the 80s now, Tino, and a lot of those conferences, they were pitching boards and planning teams at high places about the coming information age and how they had to do a lot of things to get ready for it. And it just sounded like the next frontier to me. It was the next place to get involved in a field that was going to be changing, where there would be some degree of adventure, people doing new things. So I just looked for a way to get involved. It wasn't that I wanted to be in the media. The truth is I wasn't smart enough to be a true technologist. And after talking to several people and realizing that there was just a need for someone to kind of help run around and put the word out and help get people more involved and people more informed of what was going on, I just kind of volunteered to take that role.
And spent the last 20 years in that. So you had 20 years in the military and then 20 years in the technology industry, and now you're reinventing yourself again. So my calculations, you'll be about 115 by the time you finish your next 20.
That's right. I've been 84 for 5 years now and enjoyed it.
Well, you must have seen a heck of a lot of changes in the last 20 years in this industry, certainly in the print side, but I think in everything in terms of technology. So has it been, sure every year, every day has been significant change?
Yeah, you don't notice it, though, when it's day by day, but
right.
Just reflecting back over the 20 years, how is it different now than it was 20 years ago? And I'm recalling that 20 years ago when I first got involved, it really was primarily mainframes. Companies had mainframe computers or almost no computer at all. It was only in the 80s the personal computer came out and was popularized, but not many people recognize that in the beginning, companies wouldn't even let them in the door. It was the real early adapters who went out and bought the personal computers, the Heath kits even, and put them together. But companies didn't want those strange little boxes coming into their offices. But some of the real innovative people were successful in convincing managers, mostly of small companies, that they could perform tasks inside the companies that would save time and produce better reports. So seeing that evolve from the acceptance in the early day of the personal computers to then networking, and then, of course, came the Internet, and now is social media. So it's just a far cry from where it was 20 years ago, but it really is fun to look back and see some of the changes.
Well, you and I have worked a lot with the people, so even though oftentimes the discussion revolves around a technology, I guess we both say that it's all about the people. And I'd like you to describe, I have my own feelings about this, but the kinds of people who tend to migrate to technology, and I'm sure you've had a lot of great experience.
Yes, I have, and in that respect, I think you and I are two of the luckiest people in town because we have a fairly easy access to a lot of the people who are the leaders of our industry on all sides of it. And I know they open their doors to you, and they've been patient to let me hang out and learn from them in many cases. And it's been fun to see truly masterful people at work. One of the things that make them stand out to me is it's just an industry full of smart, innovative people who are just drawn to being good problem solvers. And you see that every day. And I heard you on the stage down at IBM just last month talking about the 70-something entrepreneurs who had lined up to to be potential candidates for recognition for innovation. That's just no other industry has that kind of opportunity to see that many innovative people coming in and getting involved in creating new solutions to old problems.
Well, the other thing is, and there's always a couple oddballs that don't fit or say outliers that don't fit the mold, but I think from my experience of more than 20 years in nonprofit is the people in this field in general are good people, and they want to contribute back. They really care about the advancement of community and advancement of technology. Certainly they're all in it, as they should be, for something that's going to benefit their business or benefit them, but they also have this overriding interest, it seems to me, and I haven't faced that in other places as much as I have working in this field.
I agree with you, and I think a lot of that is it's that entrepreneurial spirit. I don't think any other industry set would have the density of entrepreneurism that this industry has, and that tends to mean not just young people, but even older people who can still think young. And those are the kind of people who do have an interest in community and want to continue to see things grow. Those are the kind of people who are not just worried about today, they really are thinking about tomorrow. And I think that's part of what makes this fun.
Well, I think you almost intentionally teed me up for this next point, being that older people that feel like they're young coming up with new ideas to revolutionize what's happening out there. So, Mike, by the way, I hear you're starting a new business, and we've been proud to be a part of this, but talk a little bit about what you're doing next here, and I'm pretty excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you are, and your excitement has been real good for me on this too. But in many ways, what I've been doing and TechLINKS has been doing for a number of years is interacting with the components of the industry, the major groups, and that's, I'll just say it's the buyers, the practitioners, those who use technology and make choices to bring it into their organizations to make their organizations better. Then the other group are the providers of those solutions, the daring, smart people who go out and take risk and develop solutions or get certified in new technologies to be able to create solutions. And then the glue, the associations, you being the largest and many other smaller groups have provided the structure and the way and a means for those other groups to share information and to find ways to exchange their knowledge, exchange their best practices, and come together. And TechLINKS has kind of been, in some ways, kind of sitting over the sideline, not being either of those three groups, but maybe having access to all those groups. And as a part of doing that, we've learned and we've seen a lot of things that can be made better, things that can be improved. So we've been sitting back developing ways and creating a platform, if you will, for how we think we can get those three groups to become connected that would add value to all. And the day we sat down and explained it to you and bounced it off you as an idea, there was just no prouder moment than when you lit up and said, I get it. Let's work together and try to make this happen. So it's been fun to create this, and it's especially fun for us to be able to do this with you and in this community.
Well, thank you. And before we get into your vision, because I'd like to get a little deeper into the ways that your new business will impact the community, it would be interesting to just have a conversation so we make sure all our listeners understand what's happening in the short term here in Georgia. So your original TechLINKS site that has now gotten up to maybe 4,000 people at one time actually being on it, using it, is being passed to TAG, and TAG has now put it online, and our viewers, our listeners will be able to go online and see that today by going to tagcommunity.org. And that's really taking your creation and turning it into a TAG community site. And so people are still going to have access to community voices and community releases and white papers and other community events, so that what they've come to know and to some degree love at TechLINKS is going to be at the TAG community site. TAG will still have its original site of tagonline.org, which will push out our calendar of events and activities that relate to TAG specifically. But what we were looking for was a more interactive site, and when this opportunity came before us through you, it made a lot of sense. And then in return, we want to promote and be a portal, if you will, for your new site, which I believe it's TechLINKS Network. TechLinksNetwork.org, right? So talk a little bit about your aspect of that, and feel free to add anything in terms of how I described what we were doing, and what your hopes are for that and what's going to be happening with that.
Well, you did an excellent job of describing it. It's just for clarification, though, it's techlinks.net as the website. Okay. So as we started developing interactive features, the buzzword is social networking features, but giving ways for people to interact with each other. For all these years, we had developed all of our services and our website to allow the community to come place their information there. The generic term for it, I think, is user-generated content. That just sounds so cold and uninteresting to me, but it's community-created content to us. It's where the members of the community say, I want others to know what's going on, and here's the information, and TechLINKS, you put it up and you share it with others. And that's the role that we took and that we were proud of. But as we further develop that whole system to say, well, rather than just give them the opportunity to place information on the bulletin board, if you will, or on the website, why don't we give them the ability to connect with each other and for them to comment back to each other? So we started creating those kinds of capabilities where people could create their own membership, post their own photograph, let them be their own person online to the degree they wanted to be open and public. Let them have groups, let them form special interest groups online, let them connect with each other, have their updates with each other, and to be able to manage some of the other tools that are popular in social networking like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, but to have one site that they could manage and control a lot of different tools to make it easier for them. As we did that and saw how much they embraced it, we thought, man, this could be good if we could connect the dots with other places. Because at the same time, we were aware of the tug of war that goes on between buyers and sellers. Buyers always want to find what's available and who has what experiences, who can best solve the problem. The sellers are always wanting to find who best needs my solution. Yet there's always a very time-consuming step or component to it when they have to have face-to-face meetings or read a lot of material. So we said, okay, let's take it even higher level. How about if we create an environment where the whole community can interact with each other and where those who have need to be confidential can be confidential and anonymous. So we've created an environment within where buyers and sellers can actually communicate with each other without giving up their identity until the buyer decides it's time to talk. At that point, they choose to have whatever conversations or meetings that they want. When we took that concept out to the local buyers, they really liked it. They liked the idea of being able to learn and discover and to collect information without having to have so many meetings and without getting so much email and phone calls. But one of the things they encouraged us to do was to reach out and involve even others. So then we came up with the idea, and you were a part of it, to how about if we just made this community a portal and then went about making other like-type communities across the country other portals and let them all share information. So, and another guy just told me Friday, Ted Turner did a wonderful thing when he created CNN, but it would never have worked if he had said, let me just do it for Georgia.
Right.
Let me just do 24-hour news in Georgia. It would have probably fallen on its face. You have to go out and connect a larger audience and a larger set of needs and interests. So that's what, with a partnership with you, we're setting out to go do. While you're staying focused on Georgia, we're going to, and taking care of the community that we have helped to inform and to be a part of, while this community will become totally focused on TAG, it frees us up to go out and start building relationships with other communities.
So at the end of the day, if you're looking 3 years out, no, you don't want to be too bold with your assumptions, but you're a pretty bold guy. Where do you hope this will be? You're going to have users then, or as you call them, affiliates and our practitioners and providers and associations involved from all over the country, all over North America, I guess, right?
We hope so. Yeah, we're going out real soon to make a presentation to several other association leaders that we hope will have interest in being a part of our program, and we want them to just connect with us and become charter members and to help build an industry net. If that can happen, and we're optimistic that it can, then in some amount of time, next year and beyond, a true network for the industry could be forming and will form, and it'll be able to connect the dots and be able to share knowledge between those who build solutions and those who want to shop and find just the right solution. And another component will be the researchers who are looking for both of the above, the buyers and the sellers, because they want to provide the results of their first love, which is finding the facts and informing both of them. So all three of those put together and connected through the local associations could be a real growth vehicle and a real jewel in the crown of the local community.
Well, Mike, we're out of time, but I certainly wish you all the best, and TAG, and I personally am in your corner to make this thing work. And when it does work or before, you owe me a fishing trip, and I'd like you to say you are going to take me fishing while you're on TAG Radio so another 1,000 people hear this commitment that you're making.
Okay, good. That'll happen, Tito. That will happen.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.